Hello and welcome into the KE Report. Shad and Corey here as your host, and today we're getting an update on West Red Lake Gold Mines. West Red Lake Gold Mines is traded on the TSX.V under the ticker WRLG, and on the OTCQB under the ticker WRLGF. And we are joined today with the president and CEO of West Red Lake Gold Mines, Shane Williams. Shane, great to have you back on the show. It's been a little while since we've had you on, although we have had updates from the team, from both Gwen and Will. And it's nice to get into the mix here as far as where the company's at, which is a really important milestone for the company, transitioning from ramp up to eventually shifting over to commercial production. This is at the Madsen Mine in the Red Lake Gold District of Northern Ontario. Now, you are producing gold, you are ramping up, but as people listening may realize or maybe not realize, it's a process. There's lots of different things that have to fall into place. You put out a news release just early last week on the 18th of November, and it really highlights where you're at mid-Q4 with the Madsen Mine. So there's a lot of things we can dig into here. I guess maybe kick it off with the fact that you're running more ore through the mill and producing more gold than you were the month before. Let's kick it off there, Shane.
Yeah, great to be on. It's an exciting time for West Red Lake, so that's good. Yeah, look, I mean, as we've talked, these ramp ups take time. Ramp up is a process where you start the mill up, you slowly build up. You have to get your systems in place. It takes some time. You're building up people, you're building up structure, and you're building up equipment. So, that all takes time. We historically, as we've started up Madsen, we've always been communicative that we're starting our time, we're doing the drilling, we're doing the work, we're getting there so that when we get there, we have all the issues and all the plans in place. So we've been doing that really since really July. And so we're getting very close, which is a good thing. Every month, I'm seeing month on month, we're increasing tonnage underground. We're putting more material through the mill. We're making more gold. And so these are all very positives that people need to be aware of and follow and track. So the plan is the mill, just to recap, the mill runs at around 800 tons a day. It's permitted for around 800 tons a day. It can go much higher, but it's 800 tons a day. So that's sort of where we need to be, the sweet spot as we get there. And from a commercial production decision, it needs to be around that 600, 700 tons a day consistently. And so we're seeing that. Actually, last month, the month before, we're seeing around that number. So all I'm waiting for is we kind of get there consistently. So look, I expect in late January, early February, we'll be in that position of where we need to be to declare commercial production. That's kind of where the plan is going forward now.
So Shane, to your point about consistency, the most recent news that we had on the mid Q4 mine update was that October you increased ore production 24% compared to the month prior. Okay, you said that you're pretty much up to the tons per day that you want to see commercial production. So should we not be expecting more ore mine, more growth on that front? Now it is, I guess, as you said, consistency. What factors on that consistency that we should be aware of then?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we always look. I mean, we could declare commercial production, but there's a couple of things that we've kind of has taken some time to come in, and some of it is it's referred to in the press release. We have some equipment that's still required to come in, and these are big trucks that for moving more material on the ground. So they were ordered earlier this year, obviously given mining, given the supply challenges. They only come in, one is coming in next week, the other one is coming in just in early December. So they're kind of two key pieces to get the tonnage to the next level, obviously trucks on the ground. And the second real part is we're doing a shaft retrofit or shaft upgrade. And so that's progressing. The plan would be that would be in production and that will get us the next lift of production. So those two kind of, are the two key milestones in our view that we just need to get there, that we want to have in place to give us that flexibility for that consistency. That's kind of the two areas we're working towards the end of the year into January, and then we'd be in a position, I think, to declare commercial production. We'll be well above, I suspect we'll be well over that 800 tons a day, but just to be able to declare commercial production is a key milestone. And it's important to make sure you do it right and you're ready to ramp up from there.
Well, Shane, let's take a step back and compare the journey you're on right now in ramp up to the several prior iterations of other operators. In the past, they did have the shaft working, but it hasn't worked recently. And the connection drift that you guys built connecting the two parts of the mine never existed till you guys did that just and developed all that over the course of this year. And then you also have multiple areas you're going to be pulling from, which is a little different than the prior operators. You're going to be pulling from McVeigh, which they were, but also Austin, Maine, South Austin, North Austin. So maybe talk about how this approach is a little different and more comprehensive than prior operations.
Yeah, I mean, when we started the plan for the project, we kind of knew some of the challenges the previous operator had, and we kind of targeted them as sort of key, I would say, ticking the boxes that we needed to do to get there. Obviously, one of them was the connection drift. Look, they struggled with, you're moving across roads, you can only do it during the day. Obviously, that's not key for a consistency in a mine. So the connection drift is one thing. And it's actually worked out really, really well, actually. Chad, it's been a really good savior for the mine in that we can consistently move material day and night. They were only able to do it in certain times. So that gets obviously moving material. And the other more important thing is we've started to drill off the connection drift. So the connection drift is connecting two parts of the mine. Obviously, up to now, they couldn't drill from there. So underground, we've created a load of drill bays. And the team are very excited that along that linear connection drift, which they could never get at, there's opportunities to drill and find more parts of ore in that area, which is highly prospective. And there's old drill holes in that area, which obviously it's close to connection drift. It's easy to move. So the connection drift has been really, really successful from my perspective of and the work the team have done to get that there. That's been a key success of the startup. I think the other one has been the access down to deeper parts of the ore body. The previous operators never really got down. So just to give the listeners an overview, the first 7 or 8 levels of the ore body has been mined, I would say 1, 2, nearly 3 times. Yeah. So, it's been mined once originally by the old timers. Then there was Pure Gold mined it again. And so now it's been mined quite a few times. So there's kind of been, as I say, pick the bones out of it. Let's just say that as an analogy. So we've had the opportunity to get down. We're mining at level 12, level 13, level 14, and we're getting down into the ore body. And so that hasn't been mined by nobody, actually, only the original old timers. So nobody after the old timers back in the 70s has mined that area. And obviously, look, gold prices are in a much different place. So that's really opening up now. And we're really getting into some of these higher grade areas because of the lack of mining there. And also, if you remember over the last, probably Will talked about it, the last 4 months or 5 months, we've been drilling in this South Austin area, we call it. And it's really a high grade area within the South Austin ore body. And unfortunately, people expect that you drill it and then you're mining it straight away. We're just getting into that material now, because you have to mine it, you drill it, you have to drill it again, put it into a mine design, kind of get access into that area before you mine it. So what's really exciting now is that we're getting into that South Austin area eventually. And that goes from now into Q1 of next year, where the grade becomes much higher and we kind of open up that whole area. So that's really exciting. It's taken some time, but that's the South Austin area we've been talking about for most of this year. From the drill hole results, we're actually getting in and mining that area. We did our first couple of stopes end of October. We're into some stopes now, and we're seeing it already in the mill. The grade is popping up. We're getting that high grade through the mill. So, yeah, it kind of proves the thesis, but it's exciting to see that.
Shane, talk to us more about grade then. This is a high-grade gold mine, but past operators, from my understanding, had some trouble reconciling some of that grade. What are you seeing in terms of grade? What can you share with us?
So maybe I'll jump into reconciliation a little bit. So with all the drilling we've done and the new interpretation of the model, it's actually reconciling very, very well. I would say we did a bulk sample, if you remember, earlier in this year. That has continued with the stopes, and our team have done, I think we've done, I don't know how many stopes we've done, about 40 or 50 more stopes past that. And our team have reconciled every single stope back to the model. So from a consistency point of view, And I was on site 2 weeks ago, and the team walked me through a very good presentation where they took every single stope we've mined, passed the bulk sample, and they were able to show the correlation between what the model said and what they actually got. So that's from my perspective. We can kind of now say that the model the team have, the interpretation, that's all perfect. It's working, and now they know what they need to do and where they need to follow the ore body. So that's the key de-risking. That was always an overhang on the project.
Well, yeah, and I think it started with the bulk sample where you prove the thesis there, but where the rubber really meets the road is when you're mining it regularly and looking at each stope. And so maybe talk about the internal model you have and how there's been a little flack from the outside marketplace, Shane, about using the economic studies in the past or using prior studies, but internally you guys have an actual plan and an internal scoping study for actual mining that's different than maybe what's public facing. So maybe talk about, you have a much more granular and when you're going and mining these different stopes.
Yeah, look, it's underground mines are complicated. So at a high level, you do a pre-feasibility, you do an engineering study. That's a very high level life of mine of what the project should be. That tells you where you need to go, how you're going down, your infrastructure, your system. But then we have this definition drill program, we call it. So we go in and we take the high level overview design of the PFS, then we target it from a drilling perspective. So you really go down to this 6 to 8 meter spacings that we've talked about. So you build your axes in there, you build your ramp into those areas, and then you drill them underground. And normally what happens when you drill them underground, you get tighter space drilling, you get parts of the old stopes or some grow, and you have a real tight interpretation of the ore body, and you can do mine design off that. It's a little bit different than the pre-feasibility, which was done at a very high level. And also, it's a lot different from a gold price. So our pre-feasibility mine design was done at 1680, if you remember. It seems a bit crazy now, given where gold is today. But the pre-feasibility mine design was done at 1600 US. So, I mean, the team used the drilling, they take all that data back, they remodel it, and then the mine engineers use a different gold price. They're using, as I would say, I think today they're using around $3,000 gold, which is well below spot. But what they're doing then is that reinterprets what the ore body looks like. The stopes get bigger, the stopes get longer. I mean, the halo of lower grade material comes into those stopes. And that really gives you the focus to then use that as your mine design going forward. And look, that's every mine underground. It changes, it moves. The concept, the process is the same, but on an individual basis, those stopes change, they get bigger, they get smaller, and that's just the nature of underground mining. And all that process from pre-feasibility to the detailed drilling to the new design, all the way through, that's the reconciliation that we go back to the original resource model, and all those steps we follow through, and at the end we go, yep, that reconciled very well through those 4 or 5 steps. And that's how I mean by the reconciliation process.
So Shane, because the gold price is so much higher than when you designed the mine, and even though you're using $3,000 now, do you take in more material? Do you lower the grade because the gold price is so much higher?
Yeah, so in the pre-feasibility, and actually the mining method was long hole, and we had cut and fill. So cut and fill is for narrow vein ore bodies. It's really when the veins are small, when they're tight, and it's also more expensive. So what happens is, as we're going in and we're using a different gold price, we're bringing in lower grade. Just to give you an idea, the cutoff grades at Madsen today are around 2.5 grams, I would say, when you look at the economics, and even break-even cutoff is way lower. So what happens is all that material comes in and makes the stopes much bigger. Now, obviously, you're running a mine, tons are key. So you need tons to keep the mill going. So we're kind of having a trade-off for tons versus grade. It doesn't mean that you're not getting the grade, but the grade, in the pre-feasibility, as an example, pre-feasibility had an average grade of 8.5 grams over life of mine, around that 8 grams. And a lot of that was driven by 8 zone, which is in the back end of the mine, which is 15 sort of grams. So over life of mine, it brought up the average grade. So, 7 sort of grams was, if you take that out. And we're seeing around 5.5 to 6 grams sort of coming through the mill now, based on new mining methods, based on more tonnage. And so that's kind of when we talk about grade and we talk about that. And that you saw that when we did the bulk sample back in April, May. That was sort of the grade we got, and we're consistently kind of seeing that sort of grade. So that's kind of, it's a long-winded way of kind of going through that, but I think it's important for listeners to understand that a little bit.
Well, Shane, let's also talk about waste management, because another part of mining is what do you do with the waste rock? And initially, it was going to have to be brought up to surface and stored, and you're moving it all around. You realize that there was actually more space underground to store it, which helps build stability in the mine, but also means a lot less movement. Maybe speak about how that helps with efficiencies.
Yeah, one of the advantages actually of, of a remnant sort of mine, or a mine that's been mined previously, is not all the old stopes that they built were backfilled. The majority of them are. But as we're going through that, we're finding a lot of them that weren't fully backfilled, or that are open and that available. So that creates an opportunity to actually store waste in them. And so that's kind of, and as we're mining also, we're pulling more stopes, we're creating voids. So that allows, it takes a while to get that cycle because you got to build up a lot of stopes, but that allows us to backfill material into those. Obviously, haulage to surface is expensive, takes a lot of haulage to move material, and that allows efficiency of waste to surface, which allows more tonnage of ore to go to surface. So that's kind of the trade-off. And that's typical in a mine, but it just takes a while in a ramp up. As I talked about the transition to ramp up, that's one of the key areas as well, allowing us to free up trucking to get more tons of ore to surface.
So Shane, with some of these new areas too that you're discovering or in a way building out, it sounds like you had an idea that some of these new areas could be mined and would come into the mine plan. What is the process to actually bring those into the mine plan, not just news flow wise, but internally as well?
You're talking about our fork or just within the mine?
Yeah. Within the mine. It sounds like you are opening up new areas and you're looking at new areas.
Yeah. So the process really is, look, there's a time lag. I'm not sure your listeners understand that, but by the time we drill an area, Jill and the team drill an area, and then South Austin as an example, we were in that area for quite a long time this year, and we put out flashy drill results. Everybody loves the flashy drill results, the high grade drill results, but it actually takes from that actual drill results to getting all the way through to mining, takes probably 3 to 4 months of work underground and drilling. So they have to drill it all out, get all the results. All that results have to be back. All the assets have to be back. That then goes to our modelers who kind of update the model with all that new data. They have to update the model, resource model, or that local. We call it a local model rather than the total model. We build a local model of that area, and then that goes to the mine designers who do a design around that. So that process takes a number of months before you actually get to mine. And then you have to put access areas in and development into that area, and then you mine it. So, it's great for people to see, wow, high grade should be coming through the mill, but it actually takes a period of time. And the key to this mining is having 4 or 5 areas like this on the go in parallel, because some are being developed, some are being drilled, some are being there. And that's kind of what we're trying to get to when I talk about this gradual ramp up. You need that consistency across the mine to do that. So having 3 or 4 of these called higher grade areas feeding into the mill is very important. So that's what the slow, steady ramp up is about.
Well, and Shane, just to that point, the prior operator, or prior operators, even if you mix Claude into it as well as pure gold, they were pulling from McVeigh and maybe some areas of Austin, but to your point, they really weren't in these higher grade areas of South Austin. A lot of the stuff you've defined in North Austin is new areas that haven't been mined. And then you brought up Fork there. Let's go to Fork. You put out some news to the marketplace just on the 26th of November, and you talked about a 3,000 meter drill program there. Now, this is something we've talked about on the show before with both Will and Gwen, that initially the team knew it was there, but they just didn't do much with it. But then Will and the team, the exploration team, reinterpreted it and said, hey, there's a high grade pod here. and it really wouldn't be that onerous to drift over to it and mine that high-grade pod. So is that what those 3,000 meters are going to be used for, to kind of drill from surface and just figure out, can you mine yet another area?
Yeah. So again, back to that. These underground mines, it's all about having multiple areas to mine from. Flexibility is the key, having that flexibility. And so we've obviously, as you say, previous operators didn't have that flexibility. So I mean, we have now we're in South Austin now. We have Austin, North Austin, and that. So then we started to look around at, okay, as we're going deeper, is there other opportunities? And so Will and the team, obviously Fork is knowing. But Will and the team went back, had a look at it, took old data, kind of reinterpreted it. We found this high grade pod. And so it's only 700 meters from the existing development, which there's an old development that they found close by. So it made it really easy, I would say, to drift underground, which means there's no permitting, there's no access, there's no ramp down to it. It's just an underground drift across to that area. And so the team have put a new design on it, new interpretation, and that's something that's in the mine plan for 2026. We're going to get in a development in early 26 as we do the development into that and then mine it, so that those tons of ore will be coming in the end of 2026 sort of thing. And Will's interpretation has found this higher grade pod within the overall ore body, which is quite exciting. I mean, it's not 43101 compliance, it's more of an internal document, but it does show substantial higher grades than in the resource, which is quite exciting. Again, another area to do. Remember, 800 tons a day, you have 3 or 4 of these areas going. You know, it's a couple of hundred tons a day from 2 or 3 of the areas. It gives you a lot of flexibility to manage your operation and eventually ramp up beyond that 800 tons a day.
Shane, can you give us more insights on what the resource size looks like at Fork and any news that we could expect, I guess, prior to this area simply being mined?
Well, I think from a news perspective, I mean, Will has now mobilized the drill rig. So the team have got a drill rig there now. Obviously, the press releases start to drill. I would expect lots of high grade hits coming out of that area. Just where Will has targeted, it's some infill and some growth. So I would say lots of high grade hits. This is sort of, I don't want to give too much away, but this is kind of like a South Austin. If your listeners will, you'll see the sort of grades we had over the last year in this South Austin. This is like another, call it a South Austin area, where it's higher grade and will allow us to generate news, obviously, into this area, but more so as we advance, as we do underground development, there'll be a lot of focus on this area. And it buffers, again, another area of higher grade material coming into it. It's kind of very like, I don't know if your listeners are aware, but the Red Lake mine, the original Red Lake mine that was run by Placer Dome and then Goldcorp, prior to hitting the high grade zone, their focus was the main ore body, but there was a number of these higher grade pods. And so what they did was, obviously, they're able to mine the main bulk of the ore body, but feed in these higher grade pods to give an overall grade. And that's true to Madsen. It's true to any of these higher grade mines in these regions, these deep high grade systems. And that's what we're finding more and more as we go down. We're finding there's another good area that the team have found at the bottom of Austin. And we will have some really good, exciting drill results coming out in the next couple of weeks now from that area. And this is an area that hasn't been mined before, and it's high grade. So again, it comes back to that concept of, as we're going down to where operators were never before, we're finding these pods. And it's just going to take time. It's going to get down there, but we will find those pods, I believe, as we keep going down. That Austin area is right below the bottom of Austin, probably down to the extent of Austin has been mined. And there's a gap there that was never mined by the old timers. And so we have some exciting drill results, really good. One of the highest grade hits we've had so far on Madsen has come out of there so far. So we'll be putting together a press release probably in another couple of weeks when we get all the drill results back. And I think people will go, wow, not only have they got South Austin, they've got Austin now. So that, then again, the flexibility and Fork on the go. So again, that takes time to build that, but it's exciting that we're seeing the plan come together that we had way back 2 years ago nearly at this stage.
Well, and Shane, just at one point we're going to have Will back on and just do a whole exploration update, because there's also other targets we haven't even talked about, like the 8 zone, or he found the upper 8 zone. There's North Shore. There's also the Wedge, MJ. There's all these other targets at surface, but then there's also the Confederation package of rocks similar to what Great Bear had, where there's a new understanding there where there could be a lot of gold there. So there's so much exploration upside the company still has in front of them. Obviously, people are laser focused on the production and the operations, but maybe just a quick statement from you about how the future looks as you continue to take some revenues and plow it back into exploration.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Look, up to now, we've been focused on this ramp up and getting the mine back up and running. As we're beginning to generate cash now, that gives, I mean, Will has been chomping at the bit a little bit just to get going, because we have this unique land package with lots of upside. So now we're seeing the mill ramping up. We're beginning to make free cash flow. We're beginning to get there. That gives the opportunity for Will and his team to go into these areas. And actually, that's kind of what happened with Fork. We were so laser focused with the team on getting Madsen. Now that that's kind of they're, I wouldn't say they're fully there, but they're comfortable enough. Will and the team now have began to look at these other areas. And so Fork is an example of that. Rowan, as we said, is another area. Will has gone back and the team are going back into their own. So that should really open up next year all these exploration areas where people will really understand the scale of Madsen and the opportunities around Madsen. And we haven't really done that because obviously we were just focused on the startup of Madsen.
Shane, what about these new team members for site management? In that news release, you outline a few different individuals. Talk us through who they are and what their roles are to help this mine function correctly.
Yeah, so it's very important that as you move through different stages of the project, you need to reinvigorate the management or bring on the experience necessary. As you've probably seen with other projects, early stage exploration is a different sort of mindset and a different team. Then moving into project development is a different team, and moving into operations is a different team. And sometimes if you don't get that team change right, the people who are exploration end up going through the different phases, and that's where it becomes a challenge for management, etc., because it's different skills. So up to now, as I said, we've been kind of project development, getting things going, building up. But in the last 6 months, we've brought in some key people that have a lot of experience. And so our key issue is we need people for the task at hand. And obviously, Madsen is a brownfield mine. So there's no point getting somebody who has underground experience with big open stopes and big areas. So the people we brought in, and started with Haley actually. Haley is our VP of Ops. I brought her in towards the start of the year. And Sean McCormick, who's our new GM. And they've come out of, you're probably well familiar with Weststone. And so both of them were hired from Weststone. And again, obviously, Eagle Mine and Kiena Mine. High grade, but very similar. Both remnant mines, both have been mined historically, and they were the key drivers of getting those two mines up and going. So they were great finds because they understand what needs to be done, they understand the challenges, and they can do that. So they've been the two drivers. We've also brought in William Curry, his name is. He, again, brownfield mines, worked in places like Mikasa, worked with Lakeshore Gold. These are sort of them similar to Madsen sort of mines. And then we brought in Bright, who's our new mine engineering manager. He has a lot of experience from Anglo Gold and Afaho over in Africa. And he worked with Porcupine, with Goldcorp in Porcupine on the Borden mine. So again, lots of people with real world experience that have come in to buffer the team as we transition to that commercial production now. It's important. Team is so difficult. I'm hearing a lot of people out there struggling to get mining experienced people who've done it before and have that technical level of skill. And it was a great find for us to find this group of people now. So, and Haley has kind of led that. So that's been great. That's been really a good achievement of the team.
Well, Shane, just as we wrap up, we've talked about a lot in this discussion. We've talked about all the equipment coming into place, opening up new stopes, exploration, the potential to drift over to Fork, all the action at Austin and South Austin. and getting down to levels no one's produced, the shaft coming into play, which will help expedite the process, the connection drift. I mean, there's so much going on with the company, but you're at that transition point where everybody is on pins and needles and watching eagerly to see when you pull the lever and say commercial production. You said initially there maybe January, February is what you're looking at. What other key news do you want people watching out for the balance of this year, but really as we move into Q1 and Q2 of next year?
So I think obviously the commercial production is a big one, but I'd also, I really want to this new area, this high grade area. So up to now, look, we've kind of moved along towards production, and from an investor point of view, I wouldn't say it's kind of boring, but it's more run of mill stuff. But I really want to get with Will's drilling into Fork, show really these other areas to really show what Madsen, why we took the focus on Madsen, why we made the decision, why we went there. It was more just than just the Madsen mine and getting to production. It was also about opening up the ore body, showing these other areas, showing the potential of this ore body that I think will really shine next year as we get into these areas, drill new areas, bring out those drill results. It'll really open up. This year is kind of down to the ground, getting the mill going. And next year will be the same, ramping up, but also having the money to expand the drilling and really understand more of these satellite deposits. And it's a good time to be doing it. Look, gold is at an all-time high. Timing is everything in this business. And so we've got the timing correct now at a good time to be ramping up the mine.
Yeah, I don't think you could have picked a better time to bring a mine online with the gold price over 4,000 US. So exciting times for the company and lots of news on tap from the drill bit, from the exploration side of the business, in addition to the development and operations side. So for those of you listening in, definitely click on the link down below in the show notes. It takes you right over to the West Red Lake Gold Mines website, straight to their news section where you can sign up for updates that hit your email inbox or just follow along with all the news as it's released. Shane, keep us posted. We'll get you guys back on for an update soon. Good luck with the end of the year ramp up. And as always, looking forward to our next conversation.
Excellent. Thank you very much.